This is the tutorial for the audio for video assignment. First, I'm going to recommend that you use the same computer you used for the previous assignment, the editing assignment, because some of the footage that you used with that assignment, you'll also use with this assignment. But you can do this on any computer, so it doesn't really matter that much. You just might take a little more time downloading some files from that previous assignment. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to start by getting a folder, getting all that set up. If I'm using a computer I've used before, you should already have a Video Production Lab folder like this somewhere on your computer. If you don't, you can go ahead and create one just by right-clicking, choosing New Folder, and then naming that folder Video Production Lab. Okay, when you open up that folder, you should see, again, if it's the one you used last time, you should see this Assignment 2 folder. If you don't, no big deal, but I'm going to make a new folder inside of this Video Production Lab folder. I'm going to right-click, choose New Folder, and I'm going to name this one Assignment 4. This is Assignment 4 because the last assignment we did was that exposure assignment. So we're doing Assignment 4. Open up that folder. And by the way, a lot of times by default, the folders look like this, these icons. I really prefer to use this list mode instead. Anyway, Assignment 4, and then I need to make inside of Assignment 4 a 5-folder setup. You've done this before, you'll do it again. I'm going to right-click, do New Folder. My first one is Audio. Then my next folder I make is called Exports. The next one I make is called Graphics. The next one is Media. And then the last one is Projects. And you'll use all 5 of these folders. Right now they're empty. We're going to put some stuff in them shortly. You can just move this to the side. And I'm going to make another Finder window. Just go up to File and then choose New Finder Window. What's going to be inside of this Finder window is just my Downloads folder right here. Mine has a couple things in it. Yours will probably be empty, but I just want to have a Downloads folder ready to go there. Okay, so I've got that going, and the next thing I need to do is go into Safari, open up my browser. I'm going to go to our Blackboard page for this course, and you're going to go down here to where it says Shared Files. I'm going to open that up. Then I'm going to go to the folder for my semester that I'm in. Spring of 23 is the one I'm in. And there should be a new folder here called Assignment 4 Audio for Video. And you should see a folder for yours and your group's stuff, your files. Now, you can actually use someone else's footage for this assignment if you want to. If you don't like your footage or if there was a problem with it, that's totally fine. But you can also just use yours. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use this group's here. I'm going to find their footage here. And you'll see 2 folders here. You'll see an audio folder and a media folder. 2 folders here, audio and media. I'm going to go ahead and go to this audio folder first. And I'm going to see some audio files. Now, these don't have very convenient names. They're just called Zoom, a bunch of numbers, and then track 1, track 1, track 1. But that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and download it. And I'm going to do them one at a time. That's the way that I prefer to do it because sometimes when you do them as groups, it can create some problems. So just click on the 3 dots here next to this first one, choose Download, and it will just save that into your Downloads folder. It might actually open up that clip there in Apple Music. It's just like a default thing it does. If it does that, go up to where it says Music and quit Music. Hopefully you don't have to do that for all 3 times, but you'll download those audio files. Then you'll do the same thing. Once you've got your audio files downloaded, you'll go to the Media folder, which has your video files. And go ahead and download each of those. Again, just click on the dots here, choose Download, and you'll download those as well. And again, I prefer that you just do it one at a time. Okay, once you've got those files downloaded, you should see them in your Downloads folder. It might take a little while, just because they're big files, but you should get them all downloaded. Now I'm going to drop them in their appropriate folder in my Assignment 4 folder. So I'm going to first I'll just take my audio ones, and I can just click on the first one, then hold Shift and click on the last one, and I can just drop that into my audio folder like that. And then the same thing with my 3 video files. These ones will go in my Media folder. Drop them into Media, and those should be good. Then I can close this Downloads folder. Now I've got my 5 folders set up. I've got some stuff in my Media folder. I've got some stuff in my Audio folder. I have audio tracks that correspond with my different video tracks. So let's go ahead and open up a Premiere project. You can leave this window open, and I'll open up a Premiere project. You might see Premiere down here in your dock, but if you don't, you can just use the Spotlight tool and type in Premiere. And if you're using a computer for the first time, it's the first time using a specific computer, you'll need to sign in with your Adobe ID. All right, but I've got Premiere opened up right here, And let's go ahead and make a new project. I'll click on New Project. And then up here at the top left, I'm going to call this Assignment for My Name. And then under Project Location, this is really important, click this drop down, then Choose Location. And I'm going to make sure to go into my desktop, then Video Production Lab, Assignment 4, and then Projects is where this is going to go. Click on Choose. For these options over here on the right, Copy Media, New Bin, and Create New Sequence, make sure all of those are unchecked. I don't want any of those highlighted. They should all be gray. Then click Create. Great. And I've got just a basic, empty Premiere project. Now what I can do is I can go to, I'm actually going to go back to Safari. There's a couple more things I need to download. I'm going to go to Safari, and I'm going to go to my shared files once more, into Spring 23, into my audio for video assignment. There are a couple more things here. There was some sample music and a graphic that I'm also going to download. I'm going to go through that same process, go into sample music, and you can just pick a song. You don't have to download all of them. You can just pick one. Doesn't matter to me. I'll choose this Yellow Tree one here, and I'm also going to download this one. It'll just go into my downloads folder. Again, it might open up here in music, which is kind of annoying, but I'll just close that. And then I'm also going to download this Viking graphic here. And again, just choose download. That will download there. It might even open up. You can close that if it opens up. And then I will go ahead and hide Safari. And let's get those files moved over as well. So I'm going to go back to Finder. I've got my Finder window here. I've already got my 5 folder set up. Let's go up to File, New Finder Window. Let's go to that Downloads folder. Let's take my Viking PNG, and that goes in my Graphics folder. And then my Yellow Tree, or whatever song you choose, goes in your Audio folder. Okay, so now I should have in my Audio folder my audio from my interviews as well as a song. I should have an empty Exports folder. I should have a Graphics folder, a Media folder, and then my Projects folder has my Premiere project in it. Let's take, you can take first your Audio folder, and you could just drag and drop into this project panel down here in the lower left of your Premiere project. Again, remember that these are tabs, and this is the tab that I want to see. If you don't see that, you can go to Window and find Project, and then have that checked there. But it should be there by default. So I'm going to first do my Audio folder, and I can just drag and drop that whole folder into Premiere. I'll do the same thing with my Graphics folder. Just drop it there. And it didn't even make it in a folder, just gave me the graphic, and that's fine. And then with my media, I'll drop my media folder in there as well. Now what I prefer, by default, Premiere shows you everything in these icons, but again, just like in Finder, I prefer to use this right here, this list mode, so I can see these as a list. I really prefer that. I'm going to make one more folder here, one more bin. I just can do that just by right-clicking anywhere in this gray area here for New Bin, and I'll call this one Sequences. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is I actually want to get some media stuff from my previous assignment, and I want to add it to here. So here's what I'll do. Since this is the computer I was using last time, I'll go to my Assignment 2 folder that I used last time, and I will go to my media folder here. And this is all of that B-roll that I filmed last time for the last assignment, all of that cool B-roll that I filmed. And I can just take all this B-roll. You can highlight all of it if you just click on the first file and then hold Shift and click on the last one. And I'm also going to add this to the media folder of my Premiere project. So I've got additional media in there in my Premiere project. Now you can see I've got a whole bunch of videos here in my media folder. Okay, great. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start kind of choosing an interview that I want to kind of split apart. Because what we're going to do is you're not going to use the entire 5-minute interview. You're just going to choose a couple sections of it. And actually, you're just going to choose one of those interviews. So what I'll do is I'm going to just click this to unclaps my media folder. Or you know what, maybe this is a situation where I actually want my media folder to open up in another tab of its own. If I double click on this, it will now open up just that media folder in a tab of its own. So I still have my project tab over here, but I have this new tab over here for my media folder. And this is actually a good situation for me to use my icon view. So I get a little preview of each of my videos here. So I can see here's one interview, here's a second interview, here's a third interview that I have, and then I have all of this stuff is my B-roll. What you can do now is you're going to choose which interview you want to use for this video. You only have to use one. You don't have to use all three of the ones you recorded. You only have to use one. So let's see, I'm going to take a look at this one, just double click, and I will just give it a quick listen. You can listen to it yourself. But one that looks good, sounds good, you know, that you think will be a good fit. And so that's the one. And I'll just go ahead and go with this one. Okay, so what you're going to do next is you're going to choose portions of this interview that you want to cut out. But before I do that, let's make a new sequence. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a sequence that is based off of the settings of this video right here. This video, as all of your videos was filmed in 1920 by 1080 at 24 frames per second. And I want to make a sequence down here that is exactly those settings. What I'm going to do in this case is I'm just going to take this video and I'm just going to drag and drop it into here. And now Premiere has made a new sequence. It's made a sequence that's based on this video. It has that video inside of it. So what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to go to my project tab here, this one over here, and you're going to see something new here. You're going to see it's got a green icon next to it. It's got this kind of graph symbol here, but it's going to have the same name as whatever video file that you just dragged from up here. So it's called MVI, a bunch of numbers. That's confusing for me. I don't really like that. So I'm going to right click on that and scroll down to choose rename. This is my sequence. What I'm looking at here is my sequence, and I'm going to rename it then to assignment 4, my name. And then I'm going to take this and drop it into my sequences folder. That way I don't get it confused with all of my media, all of my video stuff. So it doesn't have the same name and it's in a different place. Okay, your next step then is to look through the video that's in this sequence that you're working with. And what you want to do is you want to choose, we're not going to do this whole video. We're not going to listen to this whole video interview. In the end, the video that you turn in for this assignment might be 60 to 90 seconds long. So it's not going to be the whole 5 minutes here. What I want to choose here is basically the highlights. What were the best answers that this person gave? Before I do that though, you might take a listen to your audio and realize that the audio from the camera, this is the in-camera audio, and it's very poor. It's not very good quality. I need to take my higher quality audio and synchronize it with this video clip. So I'm going to go to my audio folder. I can just click to drag down here, and you have multiple audio tracks. You might need to give them a listen to know which one goes with which video. So if I listen to this audio clip here, it's going to show me a preview of that. You can see the waveforms, and I can listen to this.
Something different at the calf. My favorite is the people.
I can tell that that's not Rune. I'll do this third one here and see if this is Rune is my person talking here. Let's see if that's the same one.
Why is it? They come a lot. The only reason I come up there is because...
Yes, I know that that's that guy's voice. So what I'll do is I can just use my audio icon here and just drag this down into the track below my video track. So I should have my blue track here and my green one here. Here's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to highlight both of them, and then I can right click on anything that's highlighted here, and I'm going to choose this option here for synchronize. And I'm going to synchronize by audio. I'm going to synchronize by audio. Track channel 1 is fine. Synchronize by audio, and then click OK. What Premiere is going to do is it's going to synchronize so that actually this kind of what we call this scratch audio from the in-camera audio is now synchronized perfectly with the higher quality audio from my other microphone.
So it started off really poor.
Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is I want to get rid of this blue audio track here because this is no longer useful for me. Up here on the top left of your timeline, you have these icons over here, and one of these icons here is called linked selection. If you click on that to turn it gray, that will allow you to no longer have these two things linked together. So by default, they're linked together. You know, they go together, they started together, but I can kind of unlink them by clicking that, making that gray, and I can just delete that blue part there. Now I'm going to go to linked selection again. And this time I'm going to just draw a little box over both of these, being very careful not to move either of them. Actually, yeah. Okay, next thing I want to do is I need to kind of zoom in. I can use my little scroll bar down here to zoom in. I want to see kind of the edges on either side of my track here. And I want to make it so that my video track is the same length as my green track here, but being very careful not to actually move it around like this. If you move it like that, you'll desynchronize it. So hit edit and undo to get it back where it was. I'm just moving the edge of it so it meets up with my green part there.
I'm doing good, and my name is...
And I can make sure that it's still synchronized. I'll go to the other side, the right-hand side, and I'll take this edge here and line that up with my green right there, just this way so they're both the same length. Then what I'm going to do is I'll zoom out a bit more again so I can see the whole tracks. I can highlight both of them, and I can right-click and choose. I'm going to choose link. I want these two to be linked together. So now if I click on the blue video track, it's going to also move the green one with it, so those are not going to get desynchronized. Okay, great. Your next step in your process is, like I said before, you're not going to use this whole 5-minute interview. You're going to choose the highlights from this interview, the most interesting answers where there weren't any technical issues of any kind. So that's going to be up to you, but I'm going to show you how I want you to isolate those things. What you're going to do is maybe choose 3 answers from this that are interesting. So one thing that can make this next part a little bit easier is I see these waveforms here, but they're really small in my audio track. I'd like to make them a little bit taller. If I move my mouse in between any of these tracks here, my mouse turns into this funny looking arrow icon. If I click and drag from that point, I can make this track a little bit taller. Just makes it a little bit easier for me to see the waveforms. And what I'm seeing with those waveforms is I'm seeing my person, which is Rune in this case, speaking. When those waveforms are taller, that means that he's speaking. What I got to do is what I would encourage you to do is just listen through the whole interview. It's only 5 minutes. Take 5 minutes of your time, listen through the whole interview, and keep note of the parts that are the most interesting or the most impactful from this interview. What I want you to choose is basically the 3 best answers, the 3 most impactful answers from this 5-minute interview. Just the 3. 3 that have high impact, not the 3 shortest, but the 3 most impactful, interesting answers from this interview. And I can let you judge that. So let's go ahead, go through. Let's see. This looks like the beginning of an answer right here. And by the way, to see, you can zoom in a little bit here to see these answers more clearly, like this.
Because upstairs in the student center, I don't really come a lot. The only reason I come up there is because if I'm going to eat breakfast, lunch, or dinner, whatever.
So let's say that's an answer I like.
Upstairs in the student center.
Upstairs in the student center is somewhere I don't eat a lot or something like that. What I want to do is I want to cut out just this answer that he gave here. So I can use my cut tool to get to your cut tool. It's over here on the left here, right? You can find these tools here. It's just this little razor blade right here. And then I'm going to cut right at the point where this is the part that I want to isolate out. And again, because these tracks are linked, it cuts both the audio and the video. Then I can go to the end of his answer here. The end of his answer ends about here. I'll use my cut tool to isolate that out. Then I'll go back to my selection tool and I can select this part. What I want to do next is I want to label the parts that are actually that I want to keep, have them be a different color. That'll make my editing a little bit easier. If I right click here, and then I should have the option to label. I'm just going to label this a different color. I'm going to label this as violet. So that's a different color than my other parts. These are the parts that I know I want to keep. So I'm going to find a couple more answers to questions, good answers to questions here.
I'd probably say my favorite food in the calf is the chili.
Is it chili?
Yeah.
Why is it the chili?
Because I love chili. With rice, mashed potatoes.
Now here's the thing I want to do. I like the answers here. What I want to make sure is I want to make sure that I'm not hearing the person who's asking the questions, because the person who's asking the questions wasn't mic'd. They didn't have a microphone on them, and so they don't sound good, right? I want to make sure that I'm only hearing the person who asked the question. So I'm going to try to find an answer here where Rune gives a nice long answer to a question.
It was like a complete. It started off really poor. It was like a completely new team. A lot of people, a lot of players from last year were seniors, so they graduated and didn't play. So it was a whole new squad, and we got a new coach, and we didn't really have an identity. So we started off really bad, lost some games, tied some games, but then in the end.
All right, so what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to isolate good answers. Now, again, like even if the answers that you're getting are not relevant to the Student Center anymore, because I know that your interviews went on tangents and that sort of thing, that's fine. This is really a technical exercise here. We're not paying super close attention to storytelling here. We're just trying to do this technical exercise. But I just want to isolate at least 3 good answers. What we're looking for is between 60 and 90 seconds. So if it takes more answers to questions than that, that's fine. But I'm looking for just their answers. I don't want to hear the person asking the question because there's no microphone on them, there's no camera on them, so it doesn't make sense to include them in this video. I only want to hear the answers to the questions. So I found another answer here. I'm going to use my razor tool here, to cut out this section that I found where you gave a good answer and then finish that off. Then I'll use my selection tool here to select that part that I just cut out. Then right click, label, give that a violet label. That way I know that that's a section that I want to use. And I'll find one more section from the interview that I liked. I'll find this section right here. I'm just using my cut tool to cut that out, and then using my selection tool, using my label, and coloring that. Okay, now to zoom out so that you can see everything in your sequence right here, a quick way to zoom out is to use the backslash key in your keyboard. It's on the right of your keyboard, it's right underneath the delete key. That will make me back out so I can see everything else. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I don't want to lose all this other progress. Maybe like I want to be able to have all this other stuff here. You know, I don't want to lose everything, but I'm about to delete a bunch of things here. But so it's not deleted, you know, forever, so to speak. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my sequences folder, and I've got this one called assignment 4KC. I'm going to right click on it. I'm just going to choose duplicate. I'm going to duplicate this sequence here. And then if you double click on this little icon right here, it will open that up right here. So I've got two different, they're identical sequences. With this one here, this one that's called the copy though, I can actually delete all of those blue ones. Those are the pieces of this video that I didn't want to keep. I can delete all of those, but later on, if I want to go back and get one of those again, I can go back to my original sequence and they're all still there. It's kind of like a checkpoint in a video game. Okay, but now I'm in my copied sequence. I've got, let's say, my 3 favorite answers here, and I'm hoping that I'm in between like 60 and 90 seconds. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move them so they all kind of move toward the beginning here. And it looks like I'm at about 2 minutes here, that's fine. That's no big deal. I can shrink this one back down to its original length here and move these back to where they were. So I've got my answers, my 3 interview answers. Now what I want to do is I'm going to zoom in here a little bit so I can see these kind of all more clearly. Now it's time to start adding some B-roll to this sequence. So what I'm going to do is I've got my person answering some questions. Let's add some B-roll on top of this because I'm not just going to have this person talking. I want to also have B-roll playing alongside it as he's talking about the Student Center. So I will go to my media folder, or you can go to your media bin, this tab that you had open right here, and you can start looking through your B-roll that you have that you think might be relevant. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to have some B-roll go over these transitions between parts of the interview where there's a cut. So I'm going to find a clip from my B-roll that I like. Let's say it's this shot of the stairs or something like that. You can just double click on it to open up the preview here. And then I'm going to use I can take the whole thing, it's about 15 seconds long, or I can use my in and out controls here, or just the I and O on my keyboard to choose a section of this that I want to keep and use for my interview. Once you've isolated the part that you want to use, instead of dragging the whole thing in here, the thing is the sound from this is not important. If you click and hold on this little drag video only icon right here, and drag this into the track above your main video track of your interview, now I'm going to see that bit of B-roll playing above or playing instead of seeing him talking. And so I definitely want to cover up these transitions here. I want to cover up these cuts. So I'm going to at least start by getting a couple of clips. So I'm just trying to cover up these transitions here so there's something playing above those transitions when they happen. But that's not all that I want to cover up. I want to place some B-roll in other places, strategic places here, because most people don't want to watch a video that's all just A-roll is what we have here. So kind of strategically, I'll let you get creative with this. I want you to find other examples of B-roll that you like. You don't have to select the entire 10-second clip, but find, like 3 to 4 second chunks of your B-roll. Use your in and out keys, I and O, or these brackets here. Use your video icon only, and just drag them in to different places here. I'm doing it kind of arbitrarily just for the sake of the exercise here, but you can be more creative with this than I'm being to get them placed in here. I don't have a specific number that you need to have, but you definitely need to cover up your transitions and also just have those video clips in various places, maybe illustrating. If you can have a video clip that's illustrating what your person is talking about, that's great. The story behind this video is not going to make a ton of sense. It's just not going to make a ton of sense right now because it's kind of disconnected. But as a technical exercise, I think it gets the job done. Okay, once you've decided on kind of where you want your clips to be, you've got your different B-roll clips over here. You'll have more than me here. You'll have a lot more than me. I'm just going to drag a few more in here so it looks like the way it's going to look for you. Should look something like this. And then go ahead and end with the B-roll clip too. You could actually end with the B-roll clip kind of going out over the edge here a little bit too. That's fine. Once you have all your B-roll kind of selected, you've got that in here the way it needs to be. Let's go ahead and add some music to this video. Go to your project panel over here on the left. You can open up your audio folder and you should have that song that you chose, that Yellow Tree song. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag and drop this into my sequence down at the bottom, that bottom audio track. And right off the bat, you're going to notice that the music is way, way, way louder than your person talking. It's just really loud. To turn that down, what I need to do is I need to find, again, I need to move my mouse kind of in that area in between two tracks at the bottom here, pull that down so that it's larger. And you're going to see this horizontal line that goes across just above the middle of the track here. When you hover your mouse right over it, your mouse transforms into this funny looking arrow thing. And if I click and drag, I can turn down the decibel level of that song. That's what I want to do. I want to turn it down quite a bit so that it's not overpowering.
If I'm going to eat breakfast, lunch, or dinner, whatever.
What is your favorite part in the cab? Like, what's your favorite food?
And I just want to make sure it's not super
really,
loud.
Poor.
Okay.
It was like a completely.
So I've got the music here, I've got the music underneath. The music is not there so that like we can vibe to it and like, enjoy it or something like that. It's just there to kind of fill in some space. Now, if your music is longer than your actual interview, you can just hover over the right-hand side of that track and just move it over this way. Move it over, remember this track that you kind of had hanging out over the edge? Move it so it lines up right there with that. I'm going to put an effect on this audio here just at the very end. I just want that to fade out. So in my effects tab right here, if you don't see that, you can just go to Window and find Effects. I'm going to search for this effect called Crossfade. This one right here. It doesn't matter which one of these, constant gain, constant power, exponential. I'll choose this constant power one and just drag that over the right-hand edge of that one right there. Okay, and that's how that will end. Last thing I'm going to add is a graphic. I'm going to add a graphic. I'm going to go to my project panel over here. I'm going to find this Viking graphic I had before. And I can just place this anywhere here. I'm going to place it so that I can see it. Place your playhead so it's over where you placed this graphic so you can see it. And of course, right now, this graphic is huge. It's way too big. It's right in the middle. First, I'm going to take my edges of my graphic here and expand that out so it covers the whole length of my video. Then I'm going to click on my graphic and go to Effect Controls up here in the top left. If you don't see that, go to Window and find Effect Controls. And for this graphic, what I want to do first is I'm going to take the opacity. I can click on this, and I'm going to bump my opacity down to about 50% or so. Then I can collapse that. For motion, I'm going to click on Motion. Then I'm going to go to Scale. I'm going to scale this down so it's smaller. And then under Position, which is right here, I'm going to use these controls. Just hover my mouse over them and then click and drag to the left or to the right to move this down. I'm going to move it down to the bottom right, like that. Okay, once you've done those steps, you've got your graphic, you've got some background music, you've got some B-roll, you've got some A-roll. You have put together a basic package. Now, as a story, it might not make a lot of sense right now, but at least you've got the technical basics of how to do that. Make sure to go to File and save your project. Then go up to Export. This has to be done because you can't just turn in your Premiere project. Go to Export. Under File Name, instead of copy 01.mp4, just call this assignment for your name.mp4. Your format should be H.264, should be that by default. And then your location, very important to click on location. Click on that, and then click on this little arrow right here that shows up so you can see more options. Go to your assignment 4 folder, your exports folder, click on save, and then you can begin your export. That's when you can click on export. So it's assignment 4, you've saved it into the exports folder and you've chosen H.264, then click on export. Almost done. Once that export is done, again, you can go to File Save to save your Premiere project. You can save your Premiere project just one more time. Then you can just quit Premiere, go to Premiere Pro and choose Quit Premiere Pro. In your Video Production Lab folder, you should now have, in your Assignment 4 folder, you should have something in all of your folders. Some audio in there, you should have an export that you just made, you should have a graphic, you should have media, and you should have your Premiere project. What I need you to submit for this is your Premiere project and your export. That's what I need you to submit. I want you to submit both of those. So you'll go back to our Blackboard page, and the way you'll submit this is like you did the last one. Go to our shared files, find that shared files, find the folder with your name on it, go to assignment 4, go to the one with your name on it, and then you can actually just drop these in here. You don't have to put them in a folder, but go to Finder, first go to your export, and drag and drop that into this folder. Make sure when you do this, click up here where it says uploading. That way you can see your uploading progress. This will help you so you know not to like go away from the page before it's actually done uploading. That's a really important step there. Okay, so that's there. And then also my Premiere project. Drop that in there. Once you've done that, you can go back to Blackboard. And then to submit the assignment, just go into week 5. And all you have to do here for this is just tell me that you've submitted the assignment. Just submit a comment or a note letting me know you've submitted the assignment. Okay, that is it. Good luck to you. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Good luck.